why do teeth move back after you stop wearing your retainer?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure people ask you that. Yeah, and people get mad at us. I'm like, you're a living human being. Like, things move.
Welcome to the Spit It Out podcast. This is where we ask the hard questions about life, dentistry, and healthcare. I'm Meg, a registered dental hygienist who loves to brush, floss, and spit out the truth. Welcome back to Spit It Out with Meg. I'm your host, Meg. Today, I have a super amazing, exciting guest. This is Dr. Sable. How are you today?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am good. How are you feeling with the weather over there in New York, right?
Yes. Yeah, New York City, it's very cold, but we're surviving.
Where I live, it's like the record warm right now on the west. And so it's insane because you guys are like, holy cow, I'm so cold. But we're over here like, please just give us a little bit, like just a little. It's kind of
Wait,
sad.
I'm so jealous. Yeah, I feel like I'm used to it now. I'm like, okay, it's just gonna hurt when I go outside, but
Yeah, just grit your teeth. All right. Well, we're going to be talking about a little bit of dental school today. We're going to talk about loans. We're going to talk about especially ortho, which I think is such a fascinating topic. And so let's dive into it. I want to take it back to the beginning. What initially drew you to dentistry?
yes. Well, honestly, I grew up in a really small town, like middle of Indiana, 1,100 people. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I don't belong. And I couldn't figure out how. And so when I met my orthodontist, I like begged my parents to take me to the orthodontist. Took me when I think I was 15. And I met her and she was like this tall, beautiful blonde woman who wore high heels. And I was like, this seems like a good option. And this was like before, YouTube, like Facebook was I think new at this time. And so like there wasn't so like I mean now there's so many things on social media. You can find a job doing anything. But I was like, this was the first time I met someone where I was like, oh, I can do this and then I can go move wherever I want. And she loved her job. So that was kind of like my gateway of meeting my orthodontist and seeing how happy she was, how nice she was to me. And then I started to, learn more about dentistry and found that it would be a good career path for me too.
Did you go to dental school?
Indiana.
Okay, so you stayed
So,
there for a bit.
so I grew up in Kokomo, Indiana, a little outside of that. It's like an hour north of Indianapolis. And then I went to undergrad at University of Buffalo in New York. So even colder than New York City. Very cold there. Do not move there. Great people though. They're so nice. So went there, played volleyball in college there, and then moved home for dental school and for residency. I did at Indiana, which is in Indianapolis for 6 years total there.
Do you have any dentists in your family?
No, I was the first one, first doctor, first dentist. So my
Dang.
parents were definitely apprehensive when I told them I wanted to be a dentist. Just, student loans and like the fear of the unknown, but we made it happen.
So with ortho, what about it did you just fall in love with though? Like what was it that you were like, this is it? Even through dental school, like you didn't sway at all?
No,
That's
I
awesome.
think which maybe I guess I should have given everything a chance, but I just love like conceptually thinking about how I'm going to move the teeth and like getting from point A to the finish line. And like, I feel like a smile is like so transformative. And I just like love that part, like the journey of like starting with, teeth that need to be improved. And then the end, someone leaves and like they have so much confidence. They feel like they can go maybe do XYZ that they couldn't do before. It's also like a little not as hands-on, which I really like. I think I thrive more in like a kind of a conceptual environment, figuring out what we need to do and how to get there versus like, like crown preps, fillings, things like that. That's not, I think, where I thrive, I guess.
It's like problem solving all day,
Yes,
right? And it's like
exactly.
puzzle pieces. I think that's so cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love the idea of orthodontics. I think it's so fascinating. And I'm curious because I know there's a lot of general dentists who also love ortho, but they're not
Yeah.
quite an orthodontist. Do you ever struggle with some cases that you see with general dentists that have maybe completed Invisalign or something and they come back to you and you're like, oh my gosh, like what happened? Does that happen sometimes?
It does, yes. Yeah, I would say it does happen. I feel like, so, I think with Invisalign and clear liners, it opened the market for people to get more orthodontics than they were before, because a lot of adults just weren't getting braces because they didn't want them as adults. But
Yeah.
I feel like if anything, it's just like opened up the market for more like chances, I guess, to meet patients and help people. I do feel like there are so many general dentists that are qualified to do Invisalign and everything. I think sometimes it just gets sticky because you'll look at a smile and think, oh, this will be easy. But there are like some giant red flags sometimes that people miss, that if you touch certain teeth or move teeth a certain way, it can create like a huge problem. And so, yeah, I think especially in New York City, there's plenty of general dentists doing Invisalign, but I do see sometimes cases that I need to fix. And I also think, it is nice for patients when they're able to get Invisalign at their dentist. They're comfortable, they know things there. But if you want to go like to the best of the best, you want to go to someone that's specializing in doing it all day long. And so I do always recommend seeing an orthodontist, because I do think we give you that like extra touch that you may be missing from a general dentist.
Yeah. When I was working at an office one time, they did a lot of clear aligners. And here's what they claim, which I find really interesting, is they claim that they can open your airway with a clear aligner, which I don't know if
Okay.
that's true. So I was curious, like, can you do that with a clear aligner or don't you need like the actual expander? I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like a lot of, especially like airway, is such a hot button term. People
Yes.
like throw that in to like make people think that
Yeah.
they're like better or more qualified,
Yeah.
which sometimes is the case, but no, like clear aligners are just a tool in general. So like Invisalign or any other brand, like you one is not going to open an airway more than the other. It's how you're treatment planning things too, that I don't know if that's even like possible depending on what you're doing. When you're using clear aligners, you really only are getting tooth movement. So
Yeah.
I would say that's like not really a claim that you can make.
So I'm curious, like, do you see a lot of patients who fall for common orthodontic scams, or do you see anything online that is an instant, like, guys, hold on, let's talk about it?
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of patients that do the at-home aligner systems first, and then they come to me and they don't work. Usually what will happen is they'll start them, and then 4 weeks in, they'll be like, wait, I have so many questions, and like my teeth hurt, and I don't know if these are fitting, and they like have no one to talk to about it. And that's usually when they stop and they're like, why did I do this? Like, I need to talk to someone in person. So I feel like the at-home aligner systems are 100% like they get a lot of people, which is shocking to me because I thought that like we all like as a society realized that when the one company went under. But I also forget that like I'm just so in tune with the dental market that everyone's living their lives. They don't know a lot of these things going on behind the scenes. So that's still out there and getting people, which makes me sad because I feel like they've wasted their money. Like the same thing as like you wouldn't get like at home like nose job or like, like it's just crazy that
Yeah.
it's still be out there.
On that same topic, what should hygienists and dentists spend more time discussing with patients before referring them to an orthodontic office?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like so I guess we could do kids and
Yeah,
adults because they're
absolutely.
both a little different. I do feel like kids could be getting referred a lot earlier. And not in the sense that maybe they need anything done, but more just to like establish a relationship with an orthodontist and make the child like feel more comfortable going there. So it's recommended by the AAO that every kid sees an orthodontist at age 7. So I do think it's a good idea for hygienists and dentists to just be educating parents when their kid turns 7, just to send them to the orthodontist, but also just prepping them and saying, like if you don't see a crossbite or you don't see like any issues where the teeth are out really far where that could cause trauma, just still like sending them to us to say, hey, let's establish a relationship, just have the orthodontist double check. If they don't find anything, at least you got to meet them. You can go back every year. They can just monitor everything to make sure everything is okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not enough of a push for that almost. And I do think it could be really beneficial to patients. But yeah, for kids, any like crossbite or any teeth that are kind of sticking out in the front,
Yeah.
where the kid could fall and it could
Yeah.
fracture the tooth,
Hmm.
I think are like the main things where I do phase one in like early kids. Also, I don't know for your office like intake forms for kids, but anyone that's like bedwetting, night terrors,
Mm.
trouble focusing. A lot of those things can be related to airway issues, um, or even just like, yeah, basically airway issues, I would say is the main reason. So sending them to an orthodontist can also just help establish, okay, maybe there's an airway issue going on that's causing these things. So an expander might help, or maybe not. So the orthodontist could refer them to like a different specialist to get, check for sleep apnea or things like that before they do treatment. But just checking for those things, I think can really help for kids.
And then I have a kind of random question, but on the
Yeah.
adult side, do you place MASP expanders? Is that what they're called? The
Yeah.
MASP
Well,
expanders, or what are they called?
there's so many variations
Okay.
now. There's like the MARPy, the
Oh,
MOSPy. There's
yes.
like a bunch of different, yeah. Um, yeah, for adults. So I guess things to look out
Yeah.
for, and then we can go into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Main things I would say is like heavy occlusion on the anterior teeth. So if you see wear on the front teeth or any like gingival recession, I feel like that's a big one to send patients in to the orthodontist because it's most likely an occlusion issue. Also some frenum, like frenum attachments that are too close to the teeth on the lower
Hmm.
and on the upper. I feel like sometimes those are missed because you see a patient so often. If you know how you see someone over and over again, sometimes it becomes like, oh, they just have that and they have a little bone loss there, or they have a black triangle there. But over time, the frenum can start to cause like bone loss and things like that. So I think if you see that, sending to an orthodontist to have us just check if anything like occlusion wise needs to be done or just a frenectomy.
Let's say I have a 26-year-old, 55-year-old, condensed upper maxilla, and they're like, bro, I can't breathe. I'm like, go to the orthodontist. Do you
Yeah,
think those expanders for adults are helpful?
I think they are helpful, yes. I do think there is a little bit of a trend where people see them online and they're like, oh, this will fix all my problems with like either just my smile, my airway. They definitely work. So basically, there are a bunch of different variations, but basically, it's an expander with implants that are placed on the roof of the mouth.
Mm.
So that way it's anchored into the bone instead of the teeth. And then there's a suture that runs from the front of your face to the back of your palate. That the expander is slowly like cranked open over time to open up that suture. And when it does that, corrects the crossbite, increases airway. It definitely does work. I will say I have a lot of people that will come in and say that they need it. And I feel like you can see it online and people talk about how well it works, and it does work. But the issue is sometimes like I'll have adult come in where they have a crossbite on one side but not on the other. And there's only so much I can do with that with these appliances because if I open up the suture and make more space, I'm going to develop like a other issue on the side that doesn't have the crossbite. So it does work, but you have to have the right mouth and right bite to make it work. You have
Okay.
to have like actually restricted mandible or maxilla that you can like equally distribute on both sides and the bite will still be in a good position. But those things definitely work. I would just say it is a process. So you're going to have the space between the front teeth. The MARPy is the one so the MARPy, you have to open up the space and then wait to start closing it in the front here for 6 months
Okay. Yeah.
because you have to allow the bone to heal.
Yeah.
The MOSPy, which is still weird for me to say, I don't know why. MARPy is easy. I think that's just the newer one. So it's weird to me. But that one, you turn a little bit slower. Still the same idea, but you turn it more slowly. So that way you can almost treat the patient with Invisalign still, and you don't get the giant space in between the front teeth. So I do think people are slowly transitioning to that. That's a lot newer than the MARPy, I would say, but they definitely work, definitely can help with airway. Um, it's hard. So all of these things, there's always an if like it might not fix your problem. If you have sleep apnea, issues snoring, things like that, there's always just you don't know if it's gonna fix it. It may improve it, it might not,
Yeah.
but there's no guarantee. So if you're going to someone and they're guaranteeing that it's gonna be fix all of those things, I would say that's a little bit of a red flag because they definitely should explain to you that it may not fix all those things.
Yeah. Do you ever work in connection with periodontists at all?
Yeah, I feel like so it's so funny in dental school. It was like, I don't know if I'll ever like I know periodontists see a lot of patients, but do orthodontists ever work with them? And now I'm like, that's who I like talk to the most.
Yeah. I was going to say, because most of my perio patients, I tell them, like, no, it's literally your occlusion. You're doing a great job, but I struggle with who to refer to most of the time. I genuinely, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so if you have any tips for hygienists, and even if the doctor's like, I don't know, sometimes it comes down to just who knows, who thinks is best. So if you have any tips, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what scenario? Like there's bone loss from biting or what?
Yeah, like let's just say I have a patient who has like a 7 millimeter pocket and it looks healthy, but it's bleeding when you probe it, but it's just very localized. And we do SRP on it, and I look at their bite and I'm like, something's wrong. I go, okay, here are my two options. I got periodontist, orthodontist. Is there one that's
Yeah.
better first, or do I just go to both? Like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I feel like so in that scenario, especially because I probably wouldn't want to move a tooth without that has a 7 millimeter pocket without the periodontist seeing it. I'd probably send them to a periodontist first, but also just prep them knowing like it's probably going to be a tandem thing where you see the periodontist. They're going to try to get your tooth healthy, but you're also going to need to see the orthodontist for them to move the tooth. I'd probably give them a referral for both and then just tell them to go see the periodontist
Okay.
first. If you're maybe skeptical that, they're probably not going to go to both, sending them to an orthodontist is good because they're kind of in charge of like the whole care now. So is a periodontist, but like they have to get that tooth moved and they have to make sure it's healthy. So they're going to be reaching out to the periodontist anyways.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really just
It's
depends on
hard,
the
right?
scenario.
I know. It's like, I don't know.
I don't think you can go wrong. I think
No,
the
it's
most
fair.
important thing is that you just tell the patient that they're gonna have to see both.
That's a good point.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where they start. If
Yeah.
one is easier to get into, or like
Mm-hmm.
usually ortho consults are free. So if they don't want to have to pay, I don't know if perio consults are usually free. I feel like there's usually a fee.
Yeah.
So if they don't want to have to pay, maybe sending them to ortho first would be like a good way
Yeah.
segue to get them the best care.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, as a hygienist, I see a lot of patients with, poor hygiene. Poor hygiene.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you approach your patients when it comes to, hey man, like we got to take care of everything a little better. What are the products you recommend? What do you recommend the hygienist to talk to them about? So we're all kind of in the same conversation.
Yeah. Well, I do think sometimes I'll see patients and then a month later they have like white spots forming. And I'm like, this wasn't here a month ago. What has changed in like 6 weeks? And so a lot of times, like, first of all, I'll ask them, like, if I see that, I ask, like, if they're drinking any sports drinks, especially if they play sports, because a lot of times what they'll do, they'll like chug a few Gatorades, not brush their teeth. Your mouth gets really dry when you're playing sports and all that sugar just sits on there and like eats away its enamel. So I'll ask that if I see that. Hygiene wise, I usually asking them when they're brushing and then if they're not brushing before bed, why. That seems to be a big one is kids just not brushing before bed. And then a big thing that I do is, a lot of times kids or patients are really good at brushing like the middle of the tooth and the incisal edge, but not near the gums. So I'll usually show them like the difference before I go over that they're even not brushing properly to show them like how different the tooth looks and that they need to be brushing above the bracket near the gums. And then I'll go in to show them how to do that. I do think a water flosser really does help.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though, nothing beats regular flossing, but if people aren't going to floss at all, it's better to give them an option to halfway get there, especially like teens and braces. So I do think water flossers help. I'll usually recommend that Act mouthwash, like the green mouthwash. And then, Prevident is always an option if it does get too bad. But I would just say watching what you're drinking, that seems to be like the biggest one. The sports drinks, energy drinks, like all of it, Poppy, Olipop, all these like healthy things are bad for your teeth. And so like that's the biggest thing. And then just showing patients like how they can brush better near their gums because that's I feel like the biggest disconnect when I see patients not brushing well. They don't understand that they have to brush above the bracket where all the food gets stuck. And that seems to help. And then I'll always talk to the parent. I do feel like orthodontists get a bad rap sometimes for like keeping braces on too long or something with hygiene, but I feel like it's always a daily struggle of like trying to get there, but also like monitoring the hygiene. And so much can change in a month too.
Yeah.
So it really is it's just always changing.
Yeah. I had ortho when I was a kid, and I never really wore my rubber bands very much. And they
Yeah.
eventually, like, I don't know if what happened, like, I got them off and my bite is okay. But I have even noticed, like, nitpicking myself. I'm like, man, maybe I should have done what they told me. I'm just like, But they didn't end up getting my second molars down. They're all pushed out, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know why
Yeah.
that happens sometimes. I'm like, because I'll see patients and they just skip the back molars, but I'm like, I don't know why. Like, get them,
Yeah.
and they're sticking out, you know?
Yeah. I think there's always a timing thing, right? Because a lot of kids want their braces on in middle school. They want them off before high school. Sometimes that means, the second molars aren't in yet when we start the braces. Usually they come in like halfway through, or like maybe there's a few months left. So I feel like it's so patient dependent. If I have a patient that's not brushing well and they've been in braces a year and a half and their second molars are just coming in, I have to kind of be like, all right, do I want to try to fix these? And
Yeah,
maybe their teeth get worse, but their second molars are straight. So the patient might not be happy, but the dentist and hygienist that sees the teeth will be like, good job.
that makes
So
sense.
I feel like that's always a struggle with orthodontists. Some orthodontists never bond a second molars, which I think is crazy. But when in your case too, I think sometimes timing wise, it
Yeah.
just doesn't work out for whatever reason.
No, that makes sense.
You also maybe have the kid like begging you to get their braces off, crying every point. Like there's so much that goes into it.
That's true.
Also, bite wise, like if you have a tendency to have an open bite, depending on how your jaw is, sometimes bonding the second molars can really create an issue. So sometimes we don't bond the second molars because it can create like an anterior open bite, or affect the growth and everything for the patient.
I did not know that. Thank you so much for educating me on that. The
Yeah.
only orthodontist I've ever talked to about this just said, this was when I was in school. I was like, hey, why don't some orthodontists ever do the back teeth? And he was like, they're just lazy. And I went, oh, really? Oh, wow. So that's all I've gotten the last 3 years. I was like,
Yeah.
really? Okay. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. It's all different. Every patient's different. So anyway, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And now if they're never bonding them, then that means they're lazy.
Yeah,
But
there you
yes.
go. Yeah, that is fair. I'll give him that.
Yes.
What are the biggest barriers for patients to receive orthodontic care that you've noticed?
I would probably say like financial barriers, some time barriers, like if it's hard for them to get off work, but mostly financial. I feel like a lot of people don't have orthodontic coverage with their dental insurance, or if they do, it's like usually $1,000. Especially for adults, a lot of adults don't have coverage. I also think like, and you can give me your take on dental insurance, but I feel like dental insurance is not the same as like medical insurance. Like it almost, to me, it's like a coupon. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to cover everything. And they're also like not necessarily like and dental insurance is looking the best way to give you like care or coverage without paying like anything. So they're not like orthodontic coverage is not normal. And I think that kind of throws people off a lot when they go to start their journey in orthodontics when they find out it's not covered.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wish hopefully we'll slowly turn to, like it's a little bit more elective. Sometimes you need orthodontic treatment, but it's not something that dental insurance is going to cover. So I think that's the biggest thing is people just are shocked and it takes a while for them to like realize how much it is and then like save for it also.
Do most orthodontic offices do like some sort of payment plan for dentistry though, like your side of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my office is fee for service, but if you have like out of network orthodontic coverage, you can submit it.
Yeah.
But then we offer payment plans for everyone, and a lot of offices do that. So you just have to put a certain number down and then monthly to pay it off, basically.
Okay. That's helpful.
So yeah. So it does make it easy. But I would say like the financial aspect is like the biggest barrier. A lot of people come in and then they'll come back later once they've like, I guess, realized how much it is and how worth it is. But I think it just stinks because a lot of people sign up for dental insurance sometimes thinking that they're going to get orthodontic coverage covered. And that's usually not the case.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That is
Which
very
is
true.
another good reason. Yeah, that's also another good reason I would say like so dentists general dentists are usually cheaper for orthodontics
Yeah.
because they're not specialized.
Yeah.
But when you go to an orthodontist, it's nice because like let's say you finish treatment and you lose a retainer or like you have a little relapse, like you're way more likely for your orthodontist can like easily like fix that, or like they're more likely to comp you on things, I would say, and
Yeah.
like give you like long-term care and like maybe a few free liners here and there if you're done with treatment and things have moved. I'm not saying general dentists are. I just um, since they're working with so many clear aligner patients, there's usually more perks we have on the back end where we can do stuff like that and comp stuff like that. Little perks that you may not get at a general dentist office.
What is a red flag when it comes to going to a general dentist for clear aligners? Like, what are some things that we should look out for as patients, for example?
Yeah. Well, again, I don't want to like, I think general dentists are great
Yes,
at,
nothing wrong with them.
but yes, but I would say so, like, as a patient,
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of like, don't decide in the office. Like, you
Mm,
should go home and think about it. So, like, if you're at the dentist and they, bring up that you maybe could use Invisalign, I would say, like, you can hear them out for sure, but like, never pay and like say yes right away. Like, don't ever, if you ever feel like you're being like, I don't know, like they want your business anyways. So if you need to go home and think about it and they're like, we're going to give you $1,000 off if you pay right now, like, they'll probably
yeah.
still give you that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say just never feel like you have to like start a treatment while you're at the dentist. Go home. Yeah. Go home, think about it. Go see an orthodontist, get a consult. If they say the same thing as your dentist and it's cheaper and you trust your dentist, then go. But I feel like that's the biggest kind of red flag. My friend just went through this. He lives in Texas. And I'm like, why didn't you call me? And he's like, well, they were offering me like, I'm like your childhood best friend. And like, I'm an orthodontist. Why aren't you calling me? And he's like, well, they offered me a good deal and like said I had to
Yeah.
like pay before I left. Long story short, he ended up going to an orthodontist after he paid already.
Wow.
But just like, I think that's the biggest red flag. And then another red flag, I would just say there are a lot of chain dental offices out there. And so sometimes that means that the dentist is always changing. So
Mm,
if you're not seeing the same dentist every time, then that also probably means your care for your clear aligners is going to change. And that usually can slow down your treatment time because everyone treats a little bit differently when it comes to orthodontics. So if you're not like always seeing the same dentist, I would say go see an orthodontist because at that point, the new dentist may have a different idea of how long your treatment may take.
okay. And then the last question I had before we wrap everything up is if I'm a patient and I'm in clear liners for 2 years plus, and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, like, is that normal? Is that normal? At a
I'm
general
like, are you speaking about yourself right now?
No. I've seen a lot of patients though. They'll come in and they're like, let's just say, I started a new office or something, and they're like, yeah, I'm still in Invisalign. I'm on tray number 68. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, yeah, they were supposed to be done like a long time ago. But I don't really know like if that's normal. So I just go like, okay, like, sorry. Like, I'm not really sure what is normal. I don't even know.
Yeah, I feel like so one thing I learned with ortho, just being out working too, is like usually with ortho and clear aligners, especially like everyone's story different, like is different. Like
Yeah.
if you were to talk to their doctor, you probably hear a completely different story.
Yeah.
It is normal for clear aligners to take 2 years if you like have never had braces before and you're an adult or you're a teenager and you've never had braces before. Like that's very common. Or if you're getting surgery with clear aligners, if you have teeth taken out and they had to close space, like very common for it to take 2 years. It really does depend on the person. If let's say someone doesn't wear their aligners well for like the whole summer and then they need to get new aligners and that we've already wasted like 4 months there and then we're starting again with the new aligners, things can really spiral like
Mm,
time wise with clear aligners. And I think as a patient, sometimes like you're only looking at like the when I put my first clear aligner on and when I finished. But if you ever like aren't compliant or lose your aligners or go on vacation and can't come back in for 2 months and you don't have any more aligners, like all those things just add on to treatment time. Um, and then you can just end up being in aligners for 2 years.
That makes a
So
lot of sense. That's good to know.
yeah. And like, just because I think it's hard, like, as a patient, because I think some people will be compliant and then they'll like not be as compliant. And then they'll be like, all right, I'm trying again. Like, I'm ready to be done. But like, just because they're trying again, we lost a lot of time in the middle. And so I think it's just hard, like, to realize that for people. So that can really add on just like compliance issues, I would say.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a
But
good
if you're
point.
like really, yeah, but like 2 years is a long time. But if you're like really worried about the timeline, what I tell patients is like, tell me like when you expect them to be done by. Like, I'll tell you if that's possible. And if not, I'll tell you why it might not be.
Okay, one more question. I just
Yeah.
am genuinely curious. Why do teeth move back after you stop wearing your retainer? I don't know how to answer that question.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure people ask you that
All
all
the
the time.
time.
Yeah, and people get mad at us. I'm like you're a living human being. Like, things move. Like, like, your nose still grows, your ears still grow.
Yes.
Like, you're a person. There is like, I'll see online too. There's like this this new wave I see on TikTok coming of like people saying, "Oh, your teeth move back because your airway and your equilibrium's not fixed." And it's like, well, that's not really the case in most scenarios. Teeth love to move back because you have gingival fibers in your gums and it's like a hair tie. And you move the teeth in where you want them, but those fibers have memory and they still want to pull the teeth back. So it usually takes about a full year for those like gingival fibers to reorganize. And then after that, you may be able to get away without wearing your retainer every single night, but you might not. So I would say like the main thing is those like gingival fibers. If you started with a space in between your teeth, like especially in the front, that space is just going to want to open naturally again. So like, if that's you or if that's a patient, that's just part of their journey. They have to be extra diligent with their retainer. There's also something called mesial drift. So our jaws naturally, every time we close, there's a force mesially on our teeth, so pushing our teeth forward towards our lips. And so as we age, and just based off our diet and evolution and things like that, our teeth on the lower love to drift, like shift forward, and that's why there's always crowding on the lower front teeth. And so if you don't wear a retainer and you're 10 years out from braces, your gingival fibers may be reorganized, but now you have the mesial drift that's causing the crowding on the lower. So that's also a really common thing that can cause your teeth to shift.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a great thing. Now I can articulate that better to my patients. And another
Yes.
thing people always say is like, oh, my wisdom teeth moved my teeth. I hear
Yeah.
that one all the time, but I know that at that point, that's not real. That's not a
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. I don't know who
No,
started that. Who started that rumor? It's like,
I don't know. And honestly, like, I feel like everyone like knows that growing up.
yeah.
And like, I feel like even in dental school, I thought that. And then I went into ortho residency and they're like, yeah, so it's not true. And I'm like, wait, what? And so, yeah. And it's also like hard as an orthodontist. And I also, probably why you don't correct people is like, no one wants to feel like they're not being heard.
Yeah.
So like, if you're telling your hygienist that your wisdom teeth moved your teeth and she's like, that can't be true, then they're going to be like, oh, well, she doesn't listen to me or believe me. And it's like, no, there's like studies showing that it doesn't actually cause your teeth to shift. I think there's just such a correlation with like wisdom teeth coming in, people not wearing their retainers around that time, because a lot of times it's like in the high school, college, in your 20s. And then there's also like the mesial drift happening. So I think like all those things, people kind of like mislabel the wisdom teeth as being the cause. But I feel like saying to patients too, like there's a natural tendency for your teeth to drift forward every single time you bite down. There's a force pushing them forward. Like, I feel like that makes so much sense. It's unrelated to the ortho aspect too. Like,
Yeah.
it's regardless of treatment, if you've ever even had it, your teeth are going to want to move.
Yeah.
Like, even I'll have a few kids that I see every year just in case they may need braces and they end up not. And I'm like, okay, let's get you a retainer because that will happen at some point, and I don't want your teeth to shift because they look great now and then you'll have to get Invisalign later on. So it's like, it's just a part of life. Some people are lucky and they don't need a retainer or braces, but most people aren't. So
Yeah. I still have my permanent. I've had this one for like, oh my God, 10 years now or something. And
nice.
it's still hanging in there. It's not my favorite retainer. It's not the cool one where you can actually like floss between each one. It's bonded on every tooth. I get so jealous
Yeah.
of some of my patients who have the really nice ones that are like like they're just on 2 teeth. And I'm like, oh, you lucky duck. You don't even understand. This is so nice. And, oh, it's just my favorite. I love when they get those. I'm like,
I
oh,
know,
so
I
great.
know, I know. No, those really are so nice.
They're the best. All right, Dr. Sable. Well, what is next for you and where can my audience connect with you?
Yeah. Well, you guys can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. If you live in New York City and want to come see me, I work at Eastside Ortho. It's linked in my bio everywhere you can find it. I'm the only orthodontist there, so just make a consult and you'll be seeing me. What's next for me? I don't really know. Really looking into possibly having a fun project come out. I love all the dental themed clothing and hair clips and things, so I'm working on something related to that. So we'll see. I don't want to say too much. And then I'm also working on like a mom guide for people, especially if you don't live in New York and can't come see me, of just like a of like I have a kid, they're 7, or like I don't know what to do. Should I take him to the orthodontist? Or maybe you did and you still have questions of just like people, you can download this, read like different scenarios or what you should do, or like follow-up questions you can ask an orthodontist based on what they tell you. So I'm working on that now too for moms, because I feel like it can be really overwhelming. And like even moms now in my practice, how do you know to trust me or to trust any doctor you see? So I think just learning more about teeth and like what I'm looking at and like breaking it down really easily. So I'm working on that now. So it should come out this month.
That's so exciting. Well, I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it. I'm definitely going to look into that for you. So thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.